Hello everybody, welcome to the Amex Stadium, home of Brighton and Hove Albion. Live Premier League football for you here on 5 Live Sports Extra this afternoon. 2 live games for you. Over on 5 Live we've got Wolves against West Ham, and with myself, Chris Wise, and former Premier League defender Danny Gabardon, we will be watching 2 teams, Danny, who are in desperate need of a win. Brighton without one in 6 and Burnley without one in 10. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Chris. And I think both of these teams will be hoping for better fortune going into 2026. As you mentioned, 2 teams that are struggling for confidence on difficult runs at this moment in time, but I think both teams will look at this game today and see it as a massive one. We'll think, can we get a win? Can we generate a bit of momentum? Can we generate a bit of confidence? I've been here for the last 2 Brighton games.
Yeah,
they weren't great. I know they weren't great. A draw against Sunderland and West Ham before that. So Burnley will look at this and see this as a great opportunity, maybe to pick up 3 points against a team that are lacking a little bit of confidence right now.
So the 2 teams emerging onto the pitch just in front of us from our very low commentary position here in the West Stand at the Amex Stadium. Brighton led out by Lewis Dunk and Burnley by Kyle Walker. And bar Kyle Walker actually and the Burnley goalkeeper Martin Dubravka, every other Burnley player has got a tracksuit top on, which is advisable for a day like this because the conditions are Baltic. Look at all those Brighton Brave players, not a single one of them with an extra layer on.
No, I don't think any of them are wearing gloves either, which I can't believe.
I think Karim Matoma might have a pair on, has he?
Yeah, I think he might be the only one, but I'd definitely be trying to keep that tracksuit top on if I can make it work.
Were you a glove man back in the day?
I do remember doing it once or twice, but I was a centre-back, so I quickly got told that that's just unacceptable. So, it never happened again after that.
Right, the 2 teams going through their pre-match routines, the handshakes with the officials, which are led today, by the way, by Tim Robinson, who has got the yellow ball in his hand at the moment, the match ball. And blue skies, cloudless blue skies up ahead of us, but a real chill in the air for Brighton against Burnley this afternoon. 14th against 19th in terms of their Premier League positions. And here are the 2 teams for you with these Premier League fixtures coming thick and fast at the moment. You can always expect changes around this period. Brighton have made 4 of them, so in come Gruder, Ruter, Mitoma and Kostoulas. Out go Milner, Minte, De Kuyper and Welbeck. So Brighton in full, Verbruggen in goal, Veltman, Van Hecke, Dunk and Kadiolu, and then Ayari and Gomez in the central midfield positions. Gruder, Ruter, Mitoma ahead of those, and Kostoulas up front, though there is some debate about whether it will be Ruter or Kostoulas who will lead this Brighton forward line.
Yeah, and I think you'll see both players kind of interchange. Ruter has kind of done that job in recent weeks when Welbeck's not been able to play and probably hasn't been as effective. He's much better in that number 10 position, but have been impressed with Kostoulas. I've seen him come off the bench the last couple of home games and he's really added a positive kind of effect to the team, so he really intrigued to see how he performs this afternoon, getting his first start in the Premier League.
Yeah, I can see him out there, tall frame, jet black hair, swept slightly black, and as Danny says, first Premier League start for Haralampos. Kostoulas with the music blaring out as it always does over the PA system with the familiar tune to get the Brighton fans in the mood. So that's the Brighton team. By the way, Yankuba Minte not amongst the substitutes, having gone off with a dead leg in that 2-2 draw with West Ham a few days ago. Burnley have made 3 changes after the home defeat to Newcastle United. Humphreys is in for the injured Esteve, and injuries are a big part of Burnley's problem at the moment. Larson for Edwards and Anthony for Chauner. They're the 3 Burnley changes. So Dubravka in goal, Walker, Laurent, Ekdal, Humphreys and Pires in the back 5, and then Ugachukwu and Florentino in midfield. The wingers Brun Larsen and Anthony, and then up front Armando Broja, who does now have his first Burnley Premier League goal, having scored just before Christmas at Bournemouth to get that late draw for Burnley. So we are off and underway with the ball immediately back at the feet of Martin Dubravka, who's outside of his penalty area to loft one high into the right channel. Brighton going from left to right in their blue and white striped home shirts with the blue shorts and the blue socks, and Burnley going in the opposite direction, so away from their fans over towards our right hand side in the south stand, and they are in the unchanged strip, the home strip of the claret shirts and the white shorts and socks combination. So what can we expect from this game today, Danny? Are we expecting nerves, considering the fact that we are ultimately watching two of the most out of form Premier League teams?
Yeah, and I think it will be the team that kind of can play with confidence, kind of play with a bit of belief in what is a difficult period for kind of both teams. They will be the team that kind of comes out on top. And from a Burnley point of view, I think they can take a lot of positives kind of from the last maybe 3 games. Picking up a draw against Everton, Bournemouth, and actually played really well against Newcastle. Obviously didn't start the game very well, were 2 down before they even knew it, and played very well after that. So it's about putting a 90-minute performance together for Burnley.
This is Mitoma, first attack for Brighton inside the penalty area on the left-hand side. Cross hits Walker, comes back off Mitoma, off his face, and goes behind for a goal kick. Brighton 0, Burnley 0. That
could be an exciting battle to watch. Mitoma back in the team today. They've missed him. Back from injury, just trying to build his way back up to full fitness, up against the experience of Kyle Walker. That's definitely a battle to watch.
It's only his 4th Premier League appearance since September for Kaoru Mitoma. He has had an injury-ravaged campaign, hasn't he?
So important to this Brighton team. He just brings that little bit of stardust, and especially with Minter obviously not being available today, Fabian Herzl will be really pleased to get him back in the starting 11.
Referee Tim Robinson has seen a foul on Amanda Broja by Ayari, which is about halfway inside Brighton's half. Broja is still down lying on his back, the Albanian, holding his left foot.
It's just Broja just closing down Ayari, just on his blind side. He's on the ball, Ayari doesn't see him coming from his blind side, and he just nicks that right foot in, Broja, to take the ball away, and then Ayari just accidental really, doesn't see him coming, almost kicks the back of his foot there.
So Broja is still slowly making his way up to his feet, and he's got a bit of a hobble on as well as he's going to make his way into the Brighton penalty area. So a sore one for him, a free kick to Burnley, 3 minutes played, goalless, and Jakob Brun Larsen on the free kick, which is probably a good 25 yards outside Brighton's penalty area. In it comes towards Humphreys at the far post, and rather than heading it back across goal, he headed it towards goal, and it just drifts harmlessly wide of Verbruggen's right post.
I think he tries to head it across goal and it goes towards goal. That's a decent opportunity. Brun Larsen flighted to the far post, he's free. Humphrey just spins round the back post and has to do better with that, has to nod that back across goal, gets it all wrong.
Last Burnley win, October the 26th, when they beat Wolverhampton Wanderers in that very dramatic finale at Molineux. But that feels an awful long time ago now for Scott Parker, who, by the way, has got exactly the same jacket on as Fabian Herzl today. Have you noted that? Same puffer jacket, same colour as well.
I reckon Scotty's is probably designer though.
I'm looking for the three stripes that normally accompany.
I think that's club issue, Fabian's.
It's certainly a day for the gloves, that's for sure. And I think we're being told there's an early goal in the other 3 o'clock Premier League game between Wolves and West Ham, and it's Wolves 1, West Ham United 0 at Molineux. I'll bring you the goal scorer in just a moment, but that is hot off the press, that goal at Molineux for Wolves, who, remember, are still without a Premier League win this season, but ahead against the other team, or one of the other teams that are in the bottom 3 with them. Here is Van Hecker on the edge of his own penalty area, just takes a touch to move the ball away from Jadon Anthony, gives it to Ayari, who then clips one over the top of Humphreys. It's come off the back of Humphreys' neck, it's dropped towards Gruder, and Gruder plays a poor pass which is intercepted quite comfortably by Laurent, who clears it upfield, but not to a teammate. Out of play for a Brighton throw in their own half, far left.
Yeah, good build-up play by Brighton. Burnley just looking to get a press on high up the pitch, and Brighton play through that press easily. The ball then goes in behind, comes off the back of Humphreys, drops down to Gruder, and then it's a simple square ball which he gets completely wrong, just plays it to Josh Laurent there.
John Arias has got that Wolves goal 4 minutes in, so that's the game that's available for you right now over on 5 Live. Wolves against West Ham United, and we'll have more Premier League football for you later as well. Bournemouth against Arsenal at the Vitality Stadium. Here is Veltman for Brighton, 0-0. Brighton against Burnley. Great challenge by Chowner in midfield, dived in at the feet of Ayari, who's limping away from that coming together, but Brighton have got the ball back again just inside Burnley's half on the left hand side with Matoma with the very bright orange boots on. You're not going to miss him today. It's the sort of colour that a steward would wear, and he's going to get onto that ball as well. Drifted down into the left channel, off the shins of Laurent, and behind for Brighton's first corner of the game.
Yeah, I think we see the difference now in this Brighton team under Fabian Hürzeler. You know, that ball from back to front from Duncan behind to the run of Matoma. You wouldn't have seen that in the previous managers. The build-up was a lot shorter, a lot slower. But they do mix it up a lot more now. Under this manager, they will go back to front and they will look for those runs in behind Matoma, looking to get in behind Laurent there. Good defending in the end, just stopping that cross coming into the box.
I think they're one of the hardest teams tactically to predict what they're going to do, Brighton. It always feels like there's a bit of Fabian Hürzeler tinkering going on. So Brighton corner, 0-0 the scoreline, and Kadiolu is going to take it from the left-hand side, raises his right arm into the air. It's going to be a right-footed delivery in towards that near post, and there was a Brighton head on it, and it goes up and over the crossbar. Van Hecker was one of those who was lurking inside the 6-yard box.
I think it might have been Veltman.
I thought it was.
In the end, yeah. Van Hecker just makes that run to the near post. It avoids him. I think it's Veltman, who initially stands on the goalkeeper, kind of just comes off him. And he probably feels he should do a little bit better with that. He just gets a little bit too much on the header. Dubravka in absolute no man's land there.
Had a difficult night, didn't he, Martin Dubravka, a few nights ago against Newcastle United. Certainly he will personally feel that he was culpable for at least one of those goals.
Yeah, the third goal wasn't pleasant viewing, was it?
Certainly wasn't. Here's Kostulas for Brighton, who have made a positive start here, but he's lost his balance over on that far left-hand side, and the ball runs away for a Burnley goal kick. Interesting to see what he's going to bring to the party today for Brighton. Haralampos Kostulas, the 18-year-old, 35 million euros they paid Olympiacos to bring him in the summer. Yeah,
he'd be really pleased to kind of get a start. And you know, we've seen over the years with Brighton, they give opportunities to young players, they look to develop them, and he's someone, as I said, who I've seen the last kind of couple of weeks, and he's come off the bench and looked really lively. So just looking at Brighton, he is the one playing as the striker. Jorginho Ruta is just playing in that favoured number 10 position. Gruder off this right hand side, and a really attacking midfield of Ayari and Gomez, and maybe Fabian Hürzeler just thinking, you know, we're probably going to dominate a lot of the ball today, so we can be a little bit more attacking in that central midfield area.
Forward by Humphreys, the Burnley centre-half, into the left channel for Broja, who's a little unlucky because it's come off him in the end, having been briefly intercepted by Dunk, so it's out for a Brighton throw. Goalless. We have also just seen our first sight of Pascal Gross on that Brighton bench as well. He is, and you may have missed this, considering that it was a transfer that happened over the New Year period, and I'm sure you've got plenty of things going on not to follow Premier League transfers, but Pascal Gross back in at Brighton, having rejoined from Borussia Dortmund, and he is amongst the Brighton substitutes today.
Yeah, when I saw the "here we go" on social media, I would have expected it to be him, but obviously had a really good period here previously, and Fabian Hürzeler just maybe looking for a bit more experience, knows exactly kind of what he's getting, someone who knows the club very well, still a fantastic player, so they'll be delighted to kind of get him back.
Here we gross would have been the pun that he was probably looking for.
Very good, Chris, very good.
This is Van Hecker, the tall, lean Brighton centre-half with the blonde hair, and he knocks it sideways to his left-hand side for his very dependable centre-half partner, Lewis Dunk, who is now gone over 500 Brighton appearances, Lewis Dunk, so the second most in the club's history for him. Brighton have still got it, and they've got it again with Dunk just inside his own territory. 0-0 as Ayari lifts it forward down the right-hand side, and Kostulas takes it on, couple of touches, right-footed shot, great finish! Oh, that's a super goal from Haralampos Kostulas with his right foot low, driving it into the corner, but just as the celebrations begin, the flag is up and it is not going to count, and Kostulas denied what would have been only his second Premier League goal.
This is tight, by the way, Chris. I'm not sure he is, but let's have a look. That is really tight. I'm not sure that's offside, but let's take nothing away from the finish. It's awful defending, by the way, from Perez. As that ball goes over the top of him, he has to do better. Misjudges the flight. Kostulas gets in, chests it down. It's a fantastic finish across Dubravka. And it's really intelligent movement from him. So I'm just looking at Grud, who's playing off the right-hand side. He actually goes into a number 10 position, and Kostulas just comes out to this right-hand side. It is offside.
Yeah, the VAR today, Konstantin Hatzidakis, determining that Kostulas had made his run a little too soon. But I mean, you're bang on about Lucas Perez. He got caught right underneath that, didn't he? The really Burnley left wing back.
Defending, and that has been symptomatic. Burnley over this really poor period, really individual kind of errors, players switching off, not doing their jobs defensively. Has to do better there, Perez. Even if he misjudges the flight and he can't get ahead on that, has to do a little bit more, has to react and kind of get back. And Kostulas knows he's going to miss it, and he knows once he chests it past him, he's kind of in on goal. Fantastic finish, by the way, across Dubravka. Really confident finish.
But Brighton 0, Burnley 0 remains the scoreline. Kostulas scrapping for it again, but over on that far left wing, the ball has just gone out of play. But immediately he's putting himself around Kostulas, making his presence felt. And clearly, when you play with one striker, as Brighton do, Danny, I know you're just looking at the decision again to deny Kostulas that goal. With Danny Welbeck in the sort of form that he's been in, he's had to be patient, Kostulas. The opportunities are coming ultimately because Welbeck can't play 2 games in a week. Yeah,
and obviously Seamas as well, who picked up the ACL injury, another young talented player. So yeah, he's had to be patient, but you do get opportunities at this football club. Young players come in and they're allowed to kind of develop, they get opportunities, and he looks a fine talent. I haven't seen too much of him, but I really like what I've kind of seen so far. And just looking at the way he kind of took that goal there, like you say, he puts himself about, plays with a lot of confidence. He's a big lad as well, good size about him for his age as well.
Yeah, considering he's 18, there is a lot of muscle on Haralampos Kostulas. So 12 and a half minutes gone at the Amex Stadium with just a little bit of sunshine at the top of the stands. Here he is again, Kostulas. He's making it happen. Mitoma trying to poke it across. I think maybe Mitoma's first touch was a smidge heavy there before the ball eventually came to. Was it Gomez that ball came to eventually?
Just looking on the replay, I think it's Kostulas who gets the ricochet and looks to play Mitoma in, and hasn't quite got up to the speed of the game yet. Just looking a little bit off the pace there with his first touch, which is normally first class.
Kyle Walker just there to guide the ball back to his goalkeeper Martin Dubravka. Yeah, those in the very top tier, Danny, of the stand opposite us, the east stand, there's probably about 100 very unlucky people who have got the brightest sun in their face right now. They will not be able to see a thing just being up there and having the sort of sun on your face.
Is it unlucky though? I'm not too sure.
Well,
slightly warmer up there though, I think.
They're going to feel that chill when the sun disappears, that's for sure. Burnley are struggling to get any flavour of the ball here so far at Brighton. 0-0 is the scoreline. Match of the day tonight, by the way, from 10:30 on BBC One. Mark Chapman's got Alan Shearer and Jermaine Defoe with him for all the day's Premier League football. And of course the Premier League football continues tomorrow as well. We'll have lots of live games for you on 5 Live, including Fulham against Liverpool and Man City against managerless Chelsea. Here is Kostulas again on the halfway line, and the backtracking Florentino with the short sleeve Burnley shirt on and the gloves takes it back and gives it to Dubravka, his goalkeeper, who sends it long into that right hand channel. Ugachukwu sticks out a leg to get the ball, and it bounces off a Brighton player and out to play for a Burnley throw on the halfway line.
So far so good for Burnley though, because they were 2-0 down by this time against Newcastle, and very difficult to come back into the game where you can see 2 goals in 7 minutes. So 14 minutes gone, still 0-0. Like you say, Chris, they haven't really got anything kind of going yet. Looking 1 or 2 occasions where they've been able to kind of potentially counter-attack, but just giving away possession. Need to try and settle into this game and try and get on the ball a little bit and just get a bit of a foothold in this game.
Yeah, they have conceded more first half goals, Burnley, than any other team in the Premier League this season, 18 in total. Here's Lucas Pires from the left-hand side, coming infield for Florentino, and then back on the halfway line is Hjalmar Ekdal, the Burnley centre-half. Here's Florentino again, now can open up the body a bit and move forward, but the referee's whistle has gone here for offside. Is that Danny? I think.
Yeah, I think Broja maybe just pulling out into that kind of wide area.
So Brighton moving that free kick, getting on with it quickly. It's 10 years actually since they lost their first league game of a new year. They tend to have a very good record at the start of January. It was a Wolves win here on New Year's Day in 2016. This is Dunk, and Mitoma coming short on the left flank. The floppy hair of Kara Mitoma still bouncing around, back to Dunk, who then sends a diagonal ball up to the edge of the area. Gruder wins the header. Humphreys is there for Burnley, and Gruder wants to let it go behind for a corner. It's not going to go behind, and then gets in a scrap with Lucas Pires, loses the ball, and it's a Burnley throw deep inside their own half on the left.
I think Brighton has started the better of the two teams, certainly in terms of possession. Obviously that chance for Kostulas, he's just slightly offside, is so tight. I'm still struggling really to see what part of his body was offside, even looking at the replay. But Pires doing a little bit better defensively there up against Gruder in the corner.
Van Hecker all the way back to Bart Verbruggen. Ronald Koeman's number one with the Netherlands team, Bart Verbruggen. And Kadiolu, who's had a good run in the Brighton team over the last few months, done a good run here actually. He's carried the ball a good 40 yards, across it goes into the Burnley penalty area, loose on the edge of the area, and then the hit by Diego Gomez, which took a deflection off a Burnley defender and spins up over the bar for a Brighton corner.
Yeah, I think it was Ekdal who got a vital kind of block on that shot, 'cause he hits it well. Gomez has previous already this season from that kind of distance, but Kadiolu picks the ball up in that left back position, and from a Burnley perspective there's no way he can run that far with the ball unchallenged. Almost makes them pay in the end. Gomez, Ekdal does really well, gets down the line of the shot.
All the Brighton players are on the edge of Burnley's penalty area now. They are splitting the 9 of them into various places, but the Brighton corner still hasn't come in yet from the right hand side. It is going to here, so 0-0 the scoreline between Brighton and Hove Albion and Burnley. Corner from the right towards the back post. The header is out of the penalty area, but only as far as Kadiolu, who's got it again for Brighton, who have kept Dunk inside the penalty area. Gruder on the far side, the opposite side to where the ball is, absolutely screaming for it to come his way, but Brighton have kept it short on the halfway line with Van Hecker. And here is Yasin Ayari, the Swede, out towards Veltman, who scored in that 2-2 draw with West Ham United, Joel Veltman, a few days ago. Gruder now bounces away from Pires, who dangled a leg. Gruder tumbles. Brighton free kick.
It's just poor defensively again from Pires. Just dangles a foot. Gruder picks the ball up on this right hand side, looks to dart inside, and he just a blatant foul. That right leg kind of comes out. Really poor defending. He's got help there as well. Anthony trying to get back and double up, and he's got to do better there. Just kind of track the run. Just too easy to go past him.
So Gruder back on his feet with the blue socks slightly rolled down. He and Kadiolu, the two Brighton players, on this free kick, a couple of yards outside the box, right of centre, and Brighton have got most inside Burnley's penalty area, bar 2 that are lingering on the edge, including Kara Mitoma. So where is this free kick going to go, and indeed who is it going to be that sends the ball into the Burnley box here? It is going to be Kadiolu with his right foot, and the header from Dunk is about 3 yards over the bar. Powerful, but unfortunately not accurate from the Brighton captain.
Yeah, you'd be disappointed. Good delivery, free header for Dunk, middle of the goal. Nobody really marking. I think it's Ekdal who tries to get out there and just almost put him off, but he doesn't get there. And Dunk, normally much better aerially from those situations, just heads it over the bar. Really good opportunity.
Did actually score against Burnley 5 years ago, Lewis Dunk, in the Premier League. Still waiting for his first goal of the season. Of course, his centre-back partner Van Hecker is the joint second top scorer in the Premier League of Brighton this season. Yeah, including 2 here against Aston Villa a few weeks ago. Here's Mitoma, who is making the run down the left-hand side, and he gets the ball now, Mitoma. Kicking it off Kadiolu, and then short to Diego Gomez, snapshot towards goal with his right foot, several yards wide of Dubravka's right-hand post.
Yeah, well, they will need to close him down, Burnley, as that ball gets moved from left to right into that kind of central area, edge of the 18-yard box. Doesn't get hold of the strike in the end, Gomez, but he does have a good shot from distance. So Burnley will need to kind of get out there. I think it was Florentino who just tried to close that space down and make it difficult to get the strike away.
Van Hecke comes to the halfway line, dominates the aerial duel to win the ball, but then Brun Larsen picks it up again, plays a 1-2, he's got it again here, Brun Larsen, and out to that right-hand side now for Broja, with Burnley committing 4 players into the penalty area. Broja trying to find a way past Dunk, he's got away from him, fizzes it in towards the near post, and claimed low into the arms of Verbruggen, the Brighton keeper.
You know, first chance Burnley have really had to put an attacking move together, and as Broja just drifts out to that right-hand side, drops the shoulder, goes past Dunk, gets to the byline, and just a lack of quality on the cross, just hits Verbruggen with it. But much better from Burnley. They're able to kind of stick 3 or 4 passes together and get in and around that 18-yard box.
0-0 still between Brighton and Burnley. We've almost reached the midway point of the first half here, and there's been a couple of half chances, but not really a significant one if you are going to discount that disallowed goal from Kostulas, which ultimately I guess you have to discount because it won't go down as a shot on target or anything like that. Here's Lewis Dunk on the edge of his own penalty area, and out to that left-hand side for Mitoma with a skip, spins away from Walker. It's lovely from him. Kadiolu, and the outstretched leg gives away the free kick from Laurent, who's going to get booked as well for the challenge because he was coming through the back of Kadiolu to try and get that ball, and he didn't get the ball, according to Tim Robinson.
Yeah, initially the skill from Mitoma is brilliant. Gets the ball played into feet. Kyle Walker's trying to get tight. He feels Mitoma's going to almost roll inside, and he actually turns and goes towards that kind of touch line there, gets away from him. Then he just lays the ball into Kadiolu. And I think it's maybe that left leg of Laurent. He stretches with the right leg, misses him, brings him down, and then kind of gets the ball after with the left leg, but already bringing Kadiolu down there.
So Josh Laurent, who got himself on the score sheet for the first time in almost a year in a Burnley shirt with that goal against Newcastle. Really nicely taken finish, actually. Laurent's goal the other night. Ultimately all in vain. He's now been booked. Brighton free kick in by Gruder, and the header away, which is helped on its way by Brun Larsen with his foot towards the halfway line. Brighton come again. They're going from left to right, Brighton in the blue and white. Here is Veltman poking it back down the line for Ayari, who's carried it out of play, so it's going to be a Burnley throw, and that is the cue for Scott Parker to march out towards the edge of his technical area again to give some instructions over to his players, and specifically here to Brun Larsen, who's come all the way over from the right-hand side to listen to something that Parker wanted to say to him.
Yeah, not quite sure what he's trying to get across to his player there, but Burnley defending that kind of set piece a lot better. That's something they need to do a lot better if they're going to start picking up points defensively. They need to keep more clean sheets. I think it's 1 clean sheet in the last 11 games. They need to defend that 18-yard box better. We've already seen Lewis Dunk have a free header no more than 5 or 6 yards out. So that kind of back 3, back 5 need to stay strong.
0-0 as it is for now. Bashir Humphreys, the former Chelsea youngster, forcing the ball up to Pires, who spins on the halfway line, and then it bounces off Gruder and into the path of Brun Larsen, who tries to go past Van Hecke. He's put a stop to that for now. Picked up again by Broja. Out to the left-hand side for Lucas Pires. Pires with his right foot gives it to Larsen. Brun Larsen chips it in, and the header by Lewis Dunk misguided, and it actually ends up going behind for a Burnley corner. So Burnley have their first corner of this game 25 minutes in.
Yeah, not quite sure the cross was going to pick anyone out from Brun Larsen. Actually thought he could have taken a shot on there as that ball was played into him on the edge of the 18-yard box. Gets it out of his feet, then elects to cross it rather than take the shot on. And just looking at Broja so far, 24 minutes gone, he's done a lot of work everywhere else but in almost the centre forward position. He's been drifting out to the right, drifting out to the left again there, picking the ball up in a wide area. Ball gets fed into Brun Larsen, and just felt he could have taken the strike on there.
Corner to Burnley then, 0-0. Lucas Perez is going to take it with his left foot, swirling it up towards that far post. Cadiolo's header away, back up to the edge of the area for the head of Anthony, and Brighton clear that too. And Kostulas trying to run past Florentino, who did well to stop him, flicks the ball out to Lucas Perez again for Burnley, 0-0, and then over comes Ayari, steps in ahead of Brun Larsen to retrieve the ball for Brighton again. And good work by Matoma, and then from Cadiolo just to open up the play from that left-back area to allow Brighton the space to move forward. You can hear the Amex roar because Lewis Dunk is running forward with it. His short pass was short, and then Jadon Anthony is fouled, so it's going to be a Burnley free kick here, and Veltman is down as well, injured at the moment, and he looks like he's perhaps more hurt than Anthony is.
Yeah, Jadon Anthony getting fouled, but don't think there was a great challenge before that from him on Veltman, as that ball is almost played a little bit short from Lewis Dunk out to this wide area, and Anthony steps in and almost stands on the foot of Joel Veltman there, and then gets fouled after by Gruder. It's almost like a 50-50 ball. Yeah, he just gets a little bit of the ball and then almost goes over the top of the ball, Anthony, doesn't he, and then makes contact with Veltman.
It actually is one of those challenges. I'm not saying that they're going to take action, but it's one of those challenges where had he been a smidge higher, I think VAR might have looked at that. Yep.
Yeah, very similar to I think it was Curtis Jones, was it, against Tottenham? Was that maybe last season, I think, where he touches the ball and does almost go over the top of the ball, and then he catches the player after.
It's just been a little handshake between Veltman and Jadon Anthony, so I don't think there's any bad blood running through those veins after that particular coming together. And it is still Brighton 0, Burnley 0, with these two teams in the lower half of the Premier League table. Brighton beginning the day in 14th, 25 points. Oh, we nearly got a little bit of the match ball in the commentary box there. That was a rare treat. It's landed 3 rows in front of us, and it's been launched back towards the touchline by a youngster. Yeah, so Brighton 14th, Burnley 19th, 6 points from safety, which they were and still are after Nottingham Forest defeated Aston Villa in that lunchtime game. Aston Villa 3, Nottingham Forest 1 is how it finished at Villa Park. So Villa back on track after that heavy defeat against Arsenal a few days ago. And if you missed it in the Old Firm derby, Celtic 1, Rangers 3. What does that mean for Wilfred Nancy? Sure, they'll be talking about that on 606 later. Here goes Ruter for Brighton, right through the middle of the park. Great speed from Ruter, still carrying it, and then ran into Lucas Perez, who just stood up well there and made the tackle to stop the fast advancing Jorginho Ruter.
Yeah, just needs to get his head up there. Ruter, he's driving through the middle of the pitch. Kyle Walker does an excellent job to kind of get back. He still has that express pace because he actually takes a long throw initially on this left-hand side and does really well to get back. Florentino tries to bring Ruter down, take the yellow, he misses him. And he just runs into bodies in the end. Ruter needs to get his head up and play the ball off there a little bit quicker.
He was the player that rescued the game here for Brighton last month against West Ham United with a late equaliser for 1-1. But for Brighton in December, 3 draws, 3 defeats. And unbelievably, Fabian Herzl is still yet to win a game in December with Brighton. He didn't win any last season either. So that's 12 December matches for Fabian Herzler and no wins. It's proved to be a barren month for him since his arrival at the club. Brighton going from left to right, and the ball at the feet of Van Hecke, who gives it to the flexible frame of Ruter on this right-hand side. Ruter spins past Bashir and then tried another step over. That didn't work, but it's dropped to Ayari. Ayari drives it low, and it's come to Ruter, who smashes it into the corner for 1-0 Brighton. Cracking finish from Jorginho Ruter. More than a touch of fortune about the way the ball spun back in his direction, but from the angle, he made sure. His second Premier League goal of the season, and Brighton on the half hour in front against Burnley. Brighton 1, Burnley 0.
Yeah, it's a really good finish from Ruter. We were just speaking about him. He's driving through a central area, doesn't get his head up and loses the ball. It's a similar kind of area to the shot that Kostulas took, and he finished that well, which was offside. But Burnley a little bit unlucky because as the first shot kind of comes in, it hits a Burnley player and it just drops down Taruto, who's picks himself up. It's on the right-hand side, kind of corner of the 6-yard box on a tight angle. 2 Burnley players sliding in, and he just fires that with power past Dubravka. It's past him before he can even see it. Really good finish.
And another first half goal conceded for Burnley. That's now 19 this season. It is becoming more than an Achilles heel for the Clarets.
I wasn't sure they'd concede one Burnley's first half, because Brighton don't score many in the first half. A lot of their goals will come in the second half, but
the ball in from Florentino, that was half a chance. Brun Larsen got up relatively well. I don't think it touched any of his head in the end. If it did, it would have brushed his hair and no more than that, and behind for a goal kick.
Yeah, it's good delivery into that far post area. Good movement from Brun Larsen. He's on the back of Cadiolo and just kind of darts in front of him. And he's just got to focus, concentrate on making contact with the ball. Misses it completely. No more than 7 yards out there. Really should make contact with the cross.
He's yet to score, actually, Jakob Brun Larsen, since he came back to Burnley. Seeing his second spell now, having been with Stuttgart in the Bundesliga last season. That's got to be a handball by Ogachukwu. It has been spotted by Tim Robinson. It's going to be a Brighton free kick in the centre circle inside their own half.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Perez on this left-hand side for Burnley. Just looking at the 3 or 4 defensive actions I've seen so far, doesn't look interested really in defending properly. The goal actually starts again with the ball out on this right-hand side, and I think it was Gruder picking the ball up, and he just darts past him too easily again. You get a bit of luck, bit of fortune, Brighton, with a shot from the edge of the box, which kind of hits a Burnley player and just drops the Ruter, who finishes expertly. You can see why they've conceded so many goals of late.
Just on that Burnley left-back situation, Danny Gabardon, Quillinshi Hartman started the season as Burnley's left-back, but he's been left out by Scott Parker in recent weeks. We're told he was part of the squad today, as in the travelling squad, but he's not been named amongst the substitutes again, as Dunk plays another lovely ball over the top for Brighton, for Mitoma, who's been forced slightly wide by Walker in that left wing area. Walker a bit too strong for Mitoma, was he? Or has the referee seen a little push? I think he has. He's indicating Tim Robinson that the decision has gone Brighton's way, who are leading Burnley by a 1-0 here.
Kyle Walker's just trying to be really aggressive with Mitoma as that ball is clipped in behind him. He's going nowhere really, Mitoma. Going back towards that kind of touch line there, and he's just trying to be too aggressive there. He's trying to get really tight, not give him any space to manoeuvre. Yeah, and it's just arms in the back there. Not massive amounts of contact, was there, but enough to send him over and get the foul.
So the 2 players that have been on pretty much all the set pieces of Brighton so far on this one again, Gruder and Cadiolo. Very deep on the left-hand side, left touch line. Cadiolo, right-footed, near post. Oh my word, it's gone into the side netting, but Dubravka's lunge towards his near post looked like one of desperation from the Burnley keeper.
Strange dive. Dubravka almost caught out on his near post. I'm not sure Cadiolo's trying to do that. Maybe just trying to deliver the ball into that near post area, but almost catching Dubravka out on his near post. As you say, Chris, it was a desperate dive to his right there. Happy to see that ball hit the side netting.
Yeah, certainly felt a little panicked from the former Newcastle United keeper, who, because he's conceded today from that Ruter goal, means he is still without a away clean sheet in the Premier League this season. This scoreline, if it stays as it is going to keep Burnley deep in trouble, and the only perhaps saving grace is the scoreline at Molineux, because it's now Wolves 2, West Ham 0. Hwang Hee-chan has scored a penalty. So Rob Edwards' side are in command, and that is going to put some serious pressure on Nuno Espirito Santo's West Ham United. Wolves 2, West Ham 0. That's live on 5 Live right now, and of course we'll have the highlights on Match of the Day later, 10:30 BBC One. But as is the case this season, you can see the goals on the BBC Sport website as well, so they'll be available for you in a digital format from around about 8:30 in the evening. So if you go on there around then, you'll be able to see the goals from Molineux, the goal that we've had here from Jorginho Ruter as Brighton win a free kick on the halfway line. 1-0 the scoreline, and we are moving towards the final 10 minutes of the half. Danny Gabardon.
Yeah, and you'd probably have to say Brighton have been the better of the two teams. It's been a bit scrappy at times, more so from a Burnley perspective in terms of possession. Not kept the ball well enough. They've had 2 or 3 opportunities kind of to counter-attack, but that Brighton press has been pretty good, and they've just turned the ball over. It hasn't stuck enough with those kind of front 3 players that Burnley are playing with.
Pires with the throw down the line from inside his own half. Van Hecke heads it out of play, so another throw for Burnley a little further up on the left-hand side, trailing 1-0 as Lucas Perez sends it back in field for Florentino. Florentino chips it over the top. It's hit Van Hecke. It's bounced towards Anthony. Anthony tried to pull it back to Broja, and it's off the feet of Veltman and behind for a Burnley corner, trailing by a 1-0.
Yeah, it just comes from a Burnley throw-in. Brighton just allowed Burnley to play from that throw-in a little bit too easy. Anthony makes a little run down the side of the 18-yard box. Nobody tracking him. He's just looking to play that across the 6-yard box, and Dunk does a really good job coming across, intercepting.
There's a cluster of claret shirts at the back post. They're making their way towards the near post now. Brun Larsen's corner, Verbruggen's punch away to the edge of the Brighton penalty area, picked up eventually by Lucas Pires. Out to the left-hand side for Brun Larsen, a change of direction, not once but twice. He goes past Gomez, and then Gomez helped out by Ruter, who stops Brun Larsen from delivering into the penalty area once more, and it's a Burnley throw, but that was very neat indeed from Jakob Brun Larsen, wasn't it?
Yeah, but no end product. Maybe one chop too many there. Sat Gomez down. To be fair, Ruter there just helping his teammate out in close attendance, just not allowing Brun Larsen to get that cross into the box.
So Kyle Walker's the one who's come over to take the throw to Ugochukwu's feet, back to Walker, left wing at the moment. That's where the ball is positioned in Burnley possession. Florentino, right-footed cross deep towards that far post. Ekdal is up there. He's done really well to get a touch on that Ekdal, but the flag is up anyway for offside, so it'll be a Brighton free kick. 1-0 the scoreline. Jorginho Ruter with his second Premier League goal of the season, and 2 in 2 months, having scored here against West Ham United. And Scott Parker, edge of his technical area, hands behind his back, and now with his arms crossed, watching on and wondering, Danny, I'm guessing, how his team get out of this predicament. And I'm not even talking necessarily about today either.
Yeah, you feel it's going to be a difficult long season for Burnley. Obviously the transfer window's open. Can Scott Parker maybe bring some bodies in? They already have a really big squad, so it might be about who he can kind of ship out before he can get players in, but just searching at the minute for something, the right formula, a win from somewhere.
Ruter left grounded by the Florentino challenge there, but because Brighton have got the ball, they've been allowed to go on, and then Ugochukwu fouls Kostulas, so it is going to be a Brighton free kick. Kostulas back up. Ruter, from what happened a couple of seconds previously, still down and in a bit of pain as well, the Brighton goal scorer.
You could actually hear that, the impact there. 2 Burnley central midfielders giving away fouls. The first one wasn't given. I thought this was a foul on Ruter. Florentino just coming on the blind side of Ruter. He's looking to turn. He comes steaming in, and Stud showing a little bit. Gets away with that one. And then Ugochukwu straight after, tackle from behind, which for sure was a foul.
And Florentino has been booked for his challenge, so a yellow card for the Burnley midfielder, and a Brighton free kick, which is halfway really between the halfway line and the edge of Burnley's penalty area.
I think the referee just playing advantage there then, maybe obviously giving the yellow card to Florentino.
But you're right, you absolutely heard the thump of the tackle, didn't you? Or the boot on boot. Almost rippled round the stadium here on a sunny but cold afternoon on the south coast of England. Brighton leading 1-0. Free kick from Gruder, left-footed, spun up to the edge of the penalty area. Outside of the box now, the ball at the feet of Ruter, who's fired that back in, flicked on by Dunk, and then the overhead kick from Van Hecke. That was nearly spectacular. One centre-half teeing it up, and the other one with a bicycle kick, and it's stopped by Dubravka.
Second top goal scorer. Jean-Paul Van Hecke, decent effort, but again they don't look comfortable defending that 18-yard box. Burnley went too many first contacts from Brighton when that ball goes in there. Acrobatics from Van Hecke on that far post, bicycle kick. Comfortable in the end for Dubravka.
Saw another centre-half, Christian Romero, do something like that a few weeks ago for Spurs. It's all the rage at the moment. 1-0 Brighton, Lewis Dunk and Mitoma, and then all the way back to Verbruggen. But Verbruggen is pretty much on the halfway line to pick the ball up. He just wants to be involved. Burnley, no shots on goal so far. No shots off goal. XG 0 in the 40 minutes.
He's trying to keep himself warm, isn't he? I think he hasn't had too much to do.
Burnley's defence certainly have, and into the box it goes, the Burnley box again, but the offside flag is up against Kostoulas, who glances over to see the flag raised, as he already has seen once in this game already, for the ball in the back of the net. That was a little more straightforward for the assistant referee to spot.
Yeah, for sure that one's offside. Just goes a little bit early there. Good line held by Burnley on this occasion, and just a little bit too eager to get in behind, not quite timing the movement of the run there.
Wolves 3, West Ham United 0. That is turning into a monstrously bad day for West Ham United, and a brilliant one for Wolves. That should be said as well. I mean, most, I think, rather fairly have written Wolverhampton Wanderers' Premier League season off, but if they're going to go down, they're going to take a couple down with them, it seems, and West Ham might be one of those. In the bottom 3 at the start of the day, and very much going to be in the bottom 3 at the end of it if things stay as they are at Molineux. Wolves 3, West Ham 0. 1-0 to Brighton here. Ruter got the goal on the half hour, and Burnley, who have just struggled to impact this game in an attacking sense in any way whatsoever. It's actually not too dissimilar to the Bournemouth game, really, but the difference being that they haven't defended as well today as they did in that game, and that's why they find themselves behind. Here's Broja, deep inside Brighton's half, far right-hand side. Everyone seemed to switch off from that ball from Lucas Pires, and Broja went hunting after it, and he's kept it in, and now the ball comes into Brighton's box. Dunk angles his header away, so Lucas Pires can pick it up. The blonde braided hair of Burnley's Brazilian fullback. Now Bashir Humphreys, who's only just returned from a long-term injury, on this left wing with Pires coming back in field, but it's on his right foot, and he's had to play that ball square to Broja. Broja can't hang on to it, and back it goes to Verbruggen, and he clears upfield for Brighton, and Walker, just inside his own half, nods it back to his own goalkeeper, Dubravka.
Yeah, looks much better, more comfortable going forward, Pires, but that's quite a simple ball to play into the feet of Broja there on the edge of the 18-yard box, and he just doesn't play it with the right appreciation. He's on the stretch, Broja, he's not able to control it. If he can fire that into his feet, maybe Broja's able to link and then make something happen, but that has been Burnley a bit up until now, not quite been good enough in possession of the ball.
Former Welsh international, Premier League defender Danny Gavadon with us on 5 Live Sports Extra this afternoon. Brighton against Burnley is our offering here. This is Lucas Pires for Burnley. Deep inside Brighton's half, left-hand side. He manages to hook it into the box. Dunk is there to reach it ahead of Broja. Size-wise, there's not too much of a difference between Dunk and Broja. Both very tall individuals, and then Ruter wrestled to the ground by Ekdal. Free kick to Brighton, just inside their own half. In fact, it was Bashir Humphreys who gave away the free kick.
Ruter is just too strong for him as that ball's played into the feet of Ruter. He just uses his body strength and he rolls Bashir Humphreys. Sometimes you just can't win the ball as a defender. You just have to accept that the striker's going to hold the ball up, but he's really eager to try and get the other side of him and intercept the ball, and Ruter's just too strong for him.
And because of the tug by Humphreys, he's been booked, so that's 3 Burnley players that have been cautioned in the first half, and two of their 3 centre-halves in Laurent and Humphreys, along with Florentino, the midfielder. And it all just ties into this narrative of Brighton having this game where they want it, leading 1-0, and we are inside now the final 60 seconds of the 45 at the end of this first half. A few around us are just beginning to make their way into the concourses, all wrapped up in scarves and bobble hats, which are the order of the day. Here's Gruder, the small German midfielder, tries to play the 1-2 with Kostoulas, and the ball is going to spin out of play for a Brighton corner, and Gruder is going over to take it. He's geeing up the Amex crowd in that corner of the stadium between the south and the west stand, as Brighton have a chance perhaps to double their advantage before half-time.
Yeah, from a Burnley perspective, really important that you don't concede a second here right on the stroke of half-time. not looked the most convincing defensively with balls into the box.
A whisper between Dunk and Kostoulas into each other's ears about who needs to go where for this Brighton corner. So we're going to see how long is going to be added on very shortly as well at the end of this first half, as Gruder takes the corner. 2 minutes added on. Gruder with his left foot out to Dubravka. The punch is only half clear, but there is Brun Larsen to hook it further away for Burnley. So a couple of minutes to be added on at the back end of this first half at Brighton. Long it goes from Verbruggen up towards Kostoulas, who's put himself around, hasn't he, in that Brighton forward line, as Gruder tries to control the bouncing ball. Lucas Pires dwells on it. Kostoulas gets it back. Ruter is running into a bit of traffic and then gets out of that traffic with a terrific manoeuvre. And it's another Brighton free kick given away by Florentino.
Yeah, and he needs to be careful, Florentino, because he is that kind of player. Likes to make tackles, energetic, and he's already been booked. And Ruter very good at using his body strength for rolling players, and he just rolls Florentino there, just drags him down. Needs to be disciplined. Florentino, the last thing they need is going down to 10 men.
We'll have the Premier League leaders for you in action later. Bournemouth against Arsenal, 5:30 at the Vitality Stadium, live on 5 Live and on BBC Sound. Short free kick from Brighton to the right for Gruder, teed up for Kadiolu, in towards Van Hecke, headed towards goal, moving away from goal and without the power to trouble Dubravka, who catches it and quickly bowls it upfield to that right hand side, but Walker can't reach it. It's intercepted. It's going to be a Burnley throw, but there are only seconds left of this first half, and Brighton leading Burnley by a goal to nil. Maybe one chance for Burnley before half-time as Jadon Anthony spreads it to Jakob Brun Larsen, edge of the penalty area. Lucas Pires shoots, and Verbruggen with his leg diverts it behind for a corner. That's a decent save from the Brighton goalkeeper. A chance for Burnley, their best of the half, the only one of the half, right before the break.
Yeah, first thing he's had to do, Verbruggen, but does it really well. Using his feet, outstretched left foot. They work it well, Burnley, from right to left. Pires on the over, he gets played in from Brun Larsen, looks to fire it across for Verbruggen. Just outstretched leg, really important save there, good save.
And Tim Robinson doesn't want to allow this corner to go ahead just yet until he's spoken to Armando Broja and Joel Veltman, who were very close together at that far post, jostling for a bit of space. So some encouragement for Burnley on what has been otherwise a disappointing first half, right at the end of stoppage time. In comes the corner towards that back post. Veltman's header away, and that is the last touch of the first half. Brighton leading Burnley by a goal to nil. Jorginho Ruter with his second Premier League goal of the season after the ball deflected off Kostoulas in his direction from an angle. Low right-footed shot past Martin Dubravka. And Burnley, Danny Gabardon, bar that opportunity at the very end of the first half for Lucas Pires, have struggled really to pierce Brighton in any way whatsoever, and Brighton deserving really of their 1-0 half-time lead.
Yeah, without really being at their best either, Brighton. You know, they find themselves 1-0 going into half-time, and you can see two teams that have been on a bit of an iffy run, lacking a bit of confidence, but you'd have to say Brighton have been the better of the two sides. Kostoulas having that chance, scoring, obviously getting flagged offside, and Ruter from a similar kind of angle with his chance, he puts it away, and then you see at the end there Pires with a similar chance from a tight angle, and he gets saved. And those are the differences in games, those are the differences that are kind of affecting Burnley at the minute. When they're getting chances, they're not clinical enough, not putting them away, and there's still that kind of vulnerability defensively. Brighton have won a lot of kind of first contacts from corners, set pieces into the box. Dunk's had a good chance with a header, so problems at both ends really for Scott Parker, and they haven't really created too much again in that first half. So difficult team talk for him, but Brighton will be delighted because they won their luck without having really played too well, I would say. Yeah,
and just a question on both. So just one on Burnley first of all, and for Scott Parker, we know that it's 10 without a win. The one thing that's been said about Burnley in recent weeks, at least in their home games, is that they are creating a lot of chances but not taking them. But it feels like away from home it's a different story, that they're not able to carve out those opportunities.
Yeah, which is weird because they've actually scored more goals away from home than home. But look, it is more difficult on the road, I think. One win away from home, I think it is for them this season. That will need to improve. But look, it's really difficult for them. They just lack quality. They do. And like I said, problems kind of at both ends. When you're conceding goals and then creating chances and not scoring, it's very difficult. The confidence of the team kind of gets affected. So you need to get one of those areas right if you're the manager. So first and foremost, I'm thinking, if I'm Scott Parker going away from home, I'm thinking, right, we got to be defensively solid. We got to be how we were kind of last season in the Championship. We were giving teams nothing. You look at the other promoted teams to the Premier League this season. Sunderland, one of the best defences in the Premier League this season. Leeds have adapted to be more defensively solid. Look how they played at Anfield the other night. I would start there as a manager. Be really kind of difficult to beat. And then you're hoping maybe your individuals, your Broyers, your Marcus Edwardses, your Jayden Anthony's can maybe do something then with the chances that get created. But you've got to start from somewhere. And for me, it's a solid base. And again, they find themselves behind in this game. So, if you're constantly going behind in games, it's very difficult to come back when you're not scoring too many. So we'll see what Scott Parker can do second half. Maybe he can tweak some things, I don't know. But going to be very difficult for them again now to kind of get back into this one.
And a quick one on Brighton, Danny, as well. We've spoken about Kostoulas quite a lot in the first half, but Brighton fans are probably wondering how Karim Matoma's got on as well, because this is only his 4th Premier League appearance since September. There'll be a lot of pleasure amongst the Brighton supporters to see him in a starting 11 again today.
Yeah, such a key player for them. You look at the amount of talent that's kind of left this club over the years, and there's been obviously a lot of talk about him maybe being the next one, and obviously for him to get injured for that period of time has been difficult for them, because he is their kind of creative spark. So look, didn't see too much of him in that first half. He still looks like a player that's trying to get up to speed, still looks a little bit tentative, not as sharp as we normally kind of see him, but just kind of great to kind of have him back, because he makes such a difference to the team. Even if he's not kind of playing well at getting the ball, he occupies defenders. At times you have to double up on him, and he creates space for kind of other players. So look, the more minutes he gets, the better he will be. And Kostoulas as well, yeah, he looks lively. I wouldn't like to play against him as a central defender there. He's big, he's physical, he's got good movement, he looks confident. Took his goal or took his chance really well there in that first half. So he looks like another real special talent who I think is going to get a lot more game time as the season goes on.
Just Danny, more from Danny Gabidon in the second half here at the Amex Stadium. Brighton leading Burnley by 1-0. It means that as it stands, Brighton are up to 8th in the Premier League table, so that's quite a jump. 14th up into 8th, and they will be 2 points behind Chelsea, who are in 5th right now, and it will keep Burnley 6 points from safety, 19th in the Premier League. But 45 minutes still to play. We're going to take you over to 5 Live now. There's quite a story developing at Molineux, where Wolves are leading West Ham United by 3-0. So we'll hear the tale of what's happened there in the first half and run you through the rest of the day's sports news right now with Mark Chapman and the team.
It as well, but that youngster who's been involved in everything, Matthias Mane, from there on with that wonderful strike, set the game out of sight, or less. We can see something of a huge change and a shift from Nuno, but he just looked so dejected as he walked down that tunnel.
A special Mane moment at Molineux at half-time. Wolves lead West Ham by 3-0, heading for their first Premier League win of the season. And Mark, I take it all back, it's on, they can do it.
Second half on the way from Molineux with Ali and Michael. Just the 1 goal in it at the Amex. John Southall.
Yes, Brighton 1, Burnley 0. Deserved half-time lead for Brighton before the goal. Kostoulas had a goal disallowed for offside, and Lewis Dunk headed over 8 yards out. Good chance that. Then the goal itself, rooted to the 4 in the build-up, ended up with him on the right of the area, and he smashed it into the bottom left corner from a tight angle. Good finish. Burnley offered little, but in the 45th minute, Lucas Pires on the left of the penalty area, his shot saved by Verbruggen. They need more of that in the second half. Half-time, Brighton 1, Burnley 0.
Earlier in the Premier League, Aston Villa 3, Nottingham Forest 1. Aston Villa have gone second. Arsenal at Bournemouth at 5:30. Full commentary here on 5 Live. In the Old Firm, Celtic were a goal up at half-time. They lost, beaten 3-1 by Rangers. Rangers level on points with Celtic, and the two of them set to be 6 points behind Hearts because Derek McInnes' side lead at the break. Jane Lewis.
Yeah, they do indeed. It's Hearts 1, Livingston 0. So far, so good for Hearts. I say they lead by 1-0. It could be way more than that. A brilliant header from Craig Halkett put them ahead. From that moment, Hearts were in complete control. And but for the Livingston goalkeeper, Jerome Pryor, as I say, they could have had more goals. He made 2 absolutely fantastic saves. First of all, to keep out Lawrence Shanklin, and then from Harry Milne as half-time approached as well. At half-time here, Hearts are on top, and things looking good. So far, obviously we've got 45 minutes to go, but they lead 1-0, and that means right now they're 6 points clear at the top of the Scottish Premiership.
Elsewhere in the Scottish Premiership, Dundee scored late on at Tannadice in that first half to have a 1-0 lead against Dundee United. It's goalless between Falkirk and Aberdeen. Kilmarnock 0, Hibs 1, and Motherwell 1, St Mirren 0. In the Scottish Championship, just the 3 games on. It's goalless between Airdrieonians and Wraith. Morton are 2-0 up at Partick. Leaders St Johnstone lead Arbroath by 1-0. Just the 2 games on in Scottish League 1. Goalless between Celtic Hearts and Alloa. Stenhousemuir are 1-0 up on Queen of the South. And just the 3 games on in Scottish League 2. Clyde 0, Forfar 1. The leaders Spartans lead Dumbarton by 1-0. Stranraer 0, Edinburgh City. Plenty of games in the National League were postponed. The latest one was the one at Altrincham, which was postponed 5 minutes before the game was due to kick off. So just 4 matches taking place at the moment. Boston 1, Eastleigh 1. Carlisle lead Wealdstone by 1-0. Forest Green Rovers 0, Halifax 1. And Tamworth 1, Gateshead 0. Last night, Bristol beat Sale to go to the top of the Gallagher Prem. Looks like Bath will replace them. They lead at the break against Exeter. Sarah Orchard.
Yeah, half-time score at the Rec. Bath 26, Exeter 14, and Bath with the fastest bonus point of the season so far. But it all came off the back of the early action when there was a red card shown to young Campbell Riddle, the Exeter wing, after he took out Henry Arundel in the air. It was a horrible challenge. Riddle knew straight away that he was in a lot of trouble, and that was the period where Bath did the damage. Since then, when they're back up to a full complement of 15, Exeter have looked lively. They've got 2 tries back, and there's still a half of rugby to go. Half-time, Exeter 14, Bath 26.
Sports Extra 2, if you want to listen to that. 3 minutes to 4 o'clock. Jill Mackenzie has the news.
The voice of the UK.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
The US Attorney General says the Venezuelan president, Nicolas Maduro, has been charged with drug and weapon offences after he was captured by American forces. President Trump is expected to give a press conference soon, but he's been speaking to Fox News in the US, where he said watching the operation was like watching a TV show.
What they did is really amazing, and I think it sends the signal we're not going to be pushed around as a country anymore by these countries where we want to be politically correct all the time. They're killing our people. If we had a war, if you lost 300,000 people, in the Civil War we lost 600,000 people. We lose 300,000 people a year to drugs, and we're not going to allow it anymore with any country.
President Trump was also asked where President Maduro and his wife are.
Well, they'll be heading to New York. You know, they were indicted in New York, and also...
So were they taken to a ship first, and then...
Yes, to Iwo Jima. They're on a ship, but they'll be heading into New York. The helicopters took them out, and they went by helicopter in a nice flight. I'm sure they loved it. But they've killed a lot of people. Remember that. They killed a lot of people. And
a lot of Americans.
Even people in their own country. They killed a lot of people to maintain power. He's a very vicious person.
There were multiple US strikes on Venezuela early this morning, mainly in the capital, Caracas. The government there has declared a state of emergency and accused the US of colonialism. Our South America correspondent is Ione Wells.
We've had a statement from the Defence Minister, Vladimir Padrino, who has said that Venezuela will defend itself, and has also said that the government is working on trying to essentially count and collaborate figures for the dead and the damage that has been done by the strikes this morning. Now, that message from the Venezuelan government, at least publicly, is that they plan to fight this, that they plan to defend themselves. The big question, though, that remains unanswered, I think, is really whether they will be able to do that very effectively. effectively or not, because we don't yet know quite the level of damage that has been done to this defence infrastructure, what kinds of casualties we might be talking about, and, as you say, who else may be still remaining in the country, not sort of hunkering down.
The US has been putting pressure on the Maduro government, which the Trump administration says is flooding the US with drugs and gang members. Washington's called him an illegitimate leader. China has strongly condemned the action against Venezuela, while Russia described it as deeply concerning. The European Union's called for international law to be respected. Sir Keir Starmer says the UK was not involved in the US strikes. He's spoken to broadcasters.
I want to speak to President Trump. I want to speak to allies. As I say, I can be absolutely clear that we were not involved in that. And as you know, I always say and believe we should all uphold international law. But I think at this stage, fast-moving situation, let's establish the facts and take it from there.
We're expecting President Trump to give a press conference in the next few minutes. We'll bring you the details in our next bulletin here on 5 Live, or you can follow live on the BBC News website or on the live news stream on BBC Sounds. In other news, Swiss prosecutors say the 2 managers of a bar which caught fire early on New Year's Day are under criminal investigation for killing by negligence. 40 people died in the ski resort of Crans-Montana. Officials have identified 4 victims today, including 2 16-year-olds. And a search operation for a person who went missing in the sea off East Yorkshire is being affected by bad weather. 2 people died after entering the water off Withensea yesterday.
Coming up in 2026 from 5 Live Sport.
A bit of eye contact, I suspect, between bowler and batsman. This is what Test cricket's all about, and we've waited for this.
That is one magnificent golf shot, and he's hit the par 5 in 2.
And he cannot contain the emotion right now. Look at that smile on his face. Crystal Palace have just won the FA Cup.
Coming up in 2026 from 5 Live Sport.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
This is 5 Live Sports with Mark Chapman.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
We heard from Danny Rowell earlier after Rangers came from behind to beat Celtic 3-1 at lunchtime. Let's get the Celtic perspective. Here's their manager, Wilfred Nancy.
I think that we deserve more today. But again, I think we deserve more goals. First half was outstanding. The intensity, the pressure, the commitment to compete, to win every ball and so on. But only 1-0. And after that, second half, we came back. We were in control. And we conceded 3 goals on the throw-in. So that's why it's difficult to accept, but this is the reality, regarding the details. And yeah, this is tough to accept.
Do you place the responsibility on the players for how that second half went, or was it to do with other things, the tactics, anything else like that?
This is not about the player, this is not about the tactic, this is about moments. And I think that during few moments we could have done better. And for me, game is about moments. My players were outstanding first half regarding what they did. They wanted to do again better the second half. But now it's about details. Details, the way we conceded, we have to be better.
A number of fans gathered outside the front, not just criticising yourself, other elements at the club here as well. It's not a good situation, is it, for the club or yourself at the moment?
Yes, this is the reality, but again, we have to stay...
Welcome back to the Amex Stadium. We'll leave our coverage of 5 Live there for now, but of course you can continue listening if you want to the second half of Wolves against West Ham United, which will be available on 5 Live and on BBC Sounds. But here on the South Coast, the scoreline: Brighton 1, Burnley 0. Danny Gabardon, former Premier League centre-half, is alongside me with the 2 teams out from the tunnel, back out from the warmth into the chilly air. And really, Danny, we're going to have to see something with a bit more thrust from Burnley in this second half. Certainly that has to be the message, doesn't it, from Scott Parker?
Yeah, I think so. And I think he'd be saying to his team, look, at 1-0, we're still very much in this game, and we have had kind of 2 or 3 moments where we've been able to maybe stick 3 or 4 passes together and get around Brighton's 18-yard box. Obviously, he created a good chance with Perez just before half-time there. They need to do a little bit more of that, need to play with a bit more kind of confidence and belief, which I know is difficult when you've been on a bad run and confidence is low. But they have got into areas on occasions, but just lack that final ball, lack that bit of composure, a bit of quality. So that will need to improve, certainly from a Brighton perspective. They'll be looking for a second goal. They'll want to kill this game off because they'll know at 1-0 Burnley is still very much in this.
Cadioli with the first ball into the box. Mitoma picks it up for Brighton, tries to put it back into an area of promise, and Burnley hook it away out of play for a Brighton throw on this near left-hand side. I'll give you the two teams in just a moment as Cadioli prepares to take this Brighton throw. No changes from Brighton or Burnley at half-time. Jorginho Ruter with the first half goal for Brighton. Here is Cadioli now into the feet of Ruter with the back heel, and Laurent gets it back for Burnley, who have tried to play their way out. They've lost it. It's picked up by Ayari. It's 2-0 Brighton. That's a fabulous finish from Yassin Ayari, and it has come just more than 60 seconds into the second half. Brighton straight out of the traps, and Yassin Ayari firing low into the bottom corner, and Burnley with that sinking feeling again. 10 without a win, and it may very soon be 11. Brighton 2, Burnley 0.
A disastrous start to the second half for Burnley, and again they don't clear their lines. You know, they've got enough bodies back there to deal with this situation. Starts with build-up kind of on this left-hand side. There's 3 or 4 attempts to kind of win the ball. Nobody really does. Ricochets off of 2 Burnley players. Then there's a challenge from Florentino, so that's not good enough on the edge of the 18-yard box. And the ball just drops to Ayari then, who's kind of on the move. And he's just kind of running across the side of that 18-yard box, and he just drills it low past Dubravka to his right-hand side. So excellent finish from Ayari, but really poor defensively from Burnley again.
Yassin Ayari goes down onto his hands and knees, kisses the turf. Second Premier League goal of his season, and Brighton 2-0 up against Burnley, and quite a few around us didn't even see that goal, Danny. Yeah. I mean, there's a whole vacant front row right in front of us that have missed it because Brighton have scored it so soon in the second half.
I was just looking for Scott Parker there. I'm not sure if he'd actually come down the tunnel. I think he had, but no real reaction from him. But Burnley, they have enough, but that comes from a throw-in, a Brighton throw-in, that goal. You know, that throw-in is an opportunity to get players back into position, get your team back behind the ball. They've got enough bodies here to deal with the situation.
Here's Gruder. It might be about to get worse for Burnley. Ruter, edge of the penalty area. Gomez has a swipe at it with his right foot, and it spins out to Jadon Anthony, who wins the Burnley throw. And now the cameras do pan in on the face of Scott Parker, who is frantically chewing his gum, arms folded, puffer jacket zipped up to the max.
What do you do about that as a manager? I'm not really sure. You know, can you kind of legislate for that kind of individual to kind of defending as a team? You know, is that a coaching problem? I'm not sure it is. I think maybe it's just a lack of quality in the team there. Enough bodies back there, but nobody wants to put a proper challenge in. Florentino on the edge of the box doesn't do enough, goes to the ground with his challenge, doesn't win the ball. Too easy for Ayari then to kind of step in, just knocks the ball to the side of Bashir Humphreys there, and it's a really clinical finish in the end.
And I think that will be what Burnley fans will be saying. Too many soft goals in the Premier League this season. 2-0 down here. So let me give you the teams as Burnley win themselves a throw just inside their half on this near side right. Verbruggen in goal, Veltman, Van Hecke, Duncan, Cadiolo in Brighton's defence, and then Ayari and Gomez, Gruder, Ruter, Mitoma and Kostulas. Ruter and Ayari the Brighton goal scorers, and Burnley, Dubravka in goal, Laurent, Ekdal and Humphreys as the back three, Walker and Pires the full-backs, the wing-backs, whatever you want to call them on either side, Ugachukwu and Florentino in midfield, and then Brun Larsen and Anthony either side of Amanda Broja in Burnley's forward line. 2-0 the scoreline as Florentino picks it up and just dances into some trouble. That's not good. Kostulas fires right at Dubravka. Should have been 3-0 Brighton. Florentino was caught dwelling on the ball on the edge of his penalty area. Almost walked himself into a very, very difficult situation.
Yeah, it's terrible again. Florentino robbed on the edge of his 18-yard box. Kostulas fancied him from there. Gets decent purchase on the strike, but straight down the throat of Dubravka, who gets down quickly. I was just looking at Scott Parker's reaction after that, and he's actually applauding. I'm not sure if he was applauding the save or whether he's just trying to encourage his players, and that's how he wants his kind of team to play, and he's maybe not worried about Florentino losing the ball in such a dangerous area, but could have easily been 3-0 there, and that's game over.
Oliver Son, the Burnley Peruvian, is stripped and ready to go on the touchline here. But for Burnley, how do they carve their way back into this game? One thing you would say, Danny Gabardon, as Brighton try and play through midfield but lose out, Jadon Anthony picking it up for Burnley. The one thing you would say about Brighton is they have come out with an extra gear to their game in this second half, as Lucas Pires sweeps in across from the left. Van Hecker just about gets a toe to it to clear it away, and now Brighton on the counter-attack, going the other way from right to left in this second half towards the north stand. It's through the middle for Ruter, 10 yards outside the box. He slips and Burnley get the ball back again.
Yeah, I think you say that, Chris, but I'm looking at Burnley and thinking, start the second half properly, be ready for Brighton, who you know are going to come out sharp and look to kind of get a second goal to really kind of kill the game off. And the second goal comes from a throw-in, from a Brighton throw-in, and they don't deal with it. They got enough bodies back there to deal with the situation. They don't deal with it, and then Ayari's able to get a shot inside the 18-yard box unopposed, and then they almost concede a third straight after there. Florentino dwelling on the ball. You know, you can't start the second half that way. You have to be focused and switched on.
Here he is again, Florentino, with a high ball into the right channel for Brun Larsen, who's forced backwards by Ferdi Kalioğlu, the Turkish international, and then Ugachukwu, and Dunk's boots collide and the ball bounces off Dunk and out for a Burnley throw. And it's not going to be one, it's going to be two Burnley changes, because we're going to see both Oliver Son and Marcus Edwards, the former Spurs youngster.
Yeah, no surprise. Thought he might have started. Marcus Edwards thought he was really good against Newcastle. He's had to wait a long time to get into the Burnley team. A lot of Burnley fans wanted to see a lot more of him sooner. Difficult for him now, though, coming on 2-0 down, trying to affect the game.
Burnley aren't going to make those changes before that throw. Florentino's cross just didn't have the right height on it, so Ruter for Brighton can run it away from the edge of his penalty area, and then he skips away from Lucas Pires, but I think just trying to jump over the challenge of Pires, he's ended up losing his footing there, Jorginho Ruter. So Burnley have it back again, but once more some very hesitant, uncertain Burnley defending, Danny.
You just don't win games of Premier League football defending like that, not doing the basics well. You have to do the basics well. And we saw that last season with Burnley, how good they were defensively. You know, to concede so few goals, you know, you have to be doing the basics right, and the team being in sync and everybody kind of working for each other. And you know, it's even more difficult then when you have that step up in quality coming into the Premier League. And you know, you look at that makeup of that Burnley defence last season, very different to the makeup of this Burnley defence this season, and not too sure about the quality that's kind of been brought in.
2-0 Brighton is the scoreline, 9 minutes into the second half. Brighton with the ball, far right hand side. And 2/3 of the way inside Burnley's half, and with Ayari, oh what a ball that is, and it just comes off the toe of Kostoulas and goes away from goal. He was lunging at it, the young Greek forward. He got a little bit on it, more than a little bit, but he couldn't divert it towards Dubravka's goal.
Yeah, he's just on the stretch there. But again, from a Burnley perspective, comes from the right hand side. How easy is that? Square ball into Ayari. Nobody's 5 yards of him. He's got a chance to get his head up. He whips a brilliant ball into that central area, the 6-yard box, and it's Kostoulas unmarked on the stretch, and he's just stretching too much where he can't control the finish.
So the Burnley double change, off comes two very dejected frames of Jakob Brun Larsen and Leslie Ugachukwu, who's actually making his way straight down the tunnel there and was being chased after almost by a Burnley backroom member of staff. I don't know if Ugachukwu's got an injury or if he's just very annoyed about the fact that he's been taken off, and the other player that's come off, Jakob Brun Larsen, just slumping into one of those padded blue seats in the Burnley away substitutes bench. So Brighton 2, Burnley 0. Son and Edwards are the two players that have come on for Burnley, but they're going to need quite a sharp change of direction to move this game a different way. Here is Kalioğlu for Brighton, and now Mitoma coming across the pitch from the left-hand side, and then with a right-footed pass, introducing Veltman into it. Veltman's moved halfway inside Burnley's half, out to the right-hand side for Ruter. Ruter with purpose into Burnley's box, cleared away as far as Veltman. Veltman has it again, out to that right-hand side. Brighton still asking the questions, low ball in, Bashir on one knee, pokes it away for Burnley and then gets it back off Lucas Pires. He's got a bit more time now. Bashir Humphreys to decide where that ball's going to go, but it's intercepted by Diego Gomez, and Brighton get it back again. Danny.
Just looking at this Burnley team, and I've been in this kind of situation myself as a player where you're at the bottom of the Premier League, and it's very, very difficult when confidence is low, and there's a few things you kind of need. One, I've already said, you've got to do the basics of the game really well. You've got to try and put 90-minute performances together. You've got to be difficult to beat, but you need everybody kind of singing off the same hymn sheet. You need that kind of team spirit, everybody working for each other. I'm not sure everyone wants to do that in this Burnley team.
Brighton are 2-0 up, Wolves are 3-0 up on West Ham United in the other 3 o'clock game that's live on 5 Live and via BBC Sounds this afternoon. Bournemouth against Arsenal to come from 5:30, and we'll have 2 more games for you tomorrow. Fulham, Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea, and all the rest of the 3 o'clock games on our various Sports Extra channels as well tomorrow. So that's Spurs, Sunderland, Everton, Brentford, and Newcastle, Crystal Palace. Brighton throw high up inside Burnley's half on the right, in towards that near post, and left by Humphreys, because it can roll through to Dubravka in all green, the Burnley goalkeeper, who puts the ball down and plays it short for Walker, who's had to go back to Dubravka, who takes a touch, gets it out of his feet, and manages to get it to his right hand side for Son, who pushes in the direction of Laurent. Back to Son again, Son trying to get it on its way for Laurent. Van Hecke stepping in and guiding it all the way back to Verbruggen. Back it comes from Verbruggen to Van Hecke once more. I mean, for Brighton, it is only 1 defeat in their last 13, even though they've been out of form. 1 defeat at home in their last 13 Premier League games. That was that slightly topsy-turvy match here against Aston Villa. So the wide lens shows you that this is largely a positive place for Brighton, but they just need to ultimately find a way to start turning draws into wins here.
Yeah, they do. And look, only 5 points going into this game, 5 points off Chelsea, I think it is, in 5th place. So it is a bit of a congested league. They just need to try and find form again. They're a team that have a few injury issues themselves as well. I think they got players that they've kind of brought in the summer that are still trying to kind of find their feet, that are getting better. The likes of Ayari, he's been very good today. Gomez I've been impressed with. Costulas. So
Edwards scampering forward for Burnley, cross towards the back post for Son, who met it and heads it up and over the top of the crossbar. But that was electric and positive run from Marcus Edwards to collect that ball from deep there.
Yeah, and that's what he's capable of doing. A bit of end product, picks the ball up on that left-hand side, excellent delivery into that far post area. Son getting forward, the substitute on that far post, the 2 substitutes connecting there. Just not able to direct that header on target. He's under a little bit of pressure on the far post there from Kaliolu.
The Burnley fans will want to point out the fact that they've got so many injuries right now. Josh Cullen is the massive one, clearly the captain, who's going to miss the rest of the season because of his knee injury. There's no Maxime Esteve today, who came off injured in that Newcastle game a few days ago. And that list is long as well, as Brighton come forward right hand side with Costulas, who wins the throw from the challenge from Florentino. The others that are missing for Burnley right now: Worrell, Roberts, Zian Fleming, the forward, Foster, Hannibal, Tuanzebe, all away at AFCON at the moment. It's an extensive number of Burnley players and first team Burnley players that Scott Parker is having to do without right now, and I think many will feel that it's showing. Here is Broja though for Burnley, just inside Brighton's half, just inside his own half I should say, as Marcus Edwards tries to pick his way past Mitoma, can't do that, and then Costulas pokes the ball forward. The ball was going nowhere, and then Ekdal has bumped into him and given Brighton a rather unnecessary free kick 10 yards inside Burnley's half.
We all need Ekdal there. Touch maybe just slightly gets away from Costulas, and that just invites Ekdal to try and close that ground and make the tackle, but he's late. just pops it off Kostoulas, and then the contact comes in.
Loon Chowner is another Burnley player that's going to come off the bench in just a moment. Brighton free kick comes out to Matoma on the left hand side, low ball, left foot, off the heels of Kyle Walker, and Brighton have a corner going from right to left in this second half, leading by 2-0. Ruter with a goal after 29 minutes, Ayari after 47. Both low finishes into Dubravka's corner to his right hand side, and another opportunity for some further Brighton damage here with this set piece from the left hand side, which Ferdi Kadiolu is going to take. He's getting a good run in the Brighton team. He really struggled with a toe injury last season, ended up having to have surgery. It caused him pain for an awful long time, but he's fit now, right footed, and Dubravka reaching up both his arms to claim the ball, wants to get it upfield quickly, but Jadon Anthony was being watched by a couple of Brighton players. He was the option for Dubravka to go up quickly, so Burnley go short instead. They're 2-0 down, and we have now played more than an hour here at the Amex Stadium, and dusk is very much descending around these parts. Lovely hue to the sky. Danny Gabardon, bit of blue, bit of purple up there as well. Rather appropriate, really, considering the colours that we've got on the pitch. Here's Walker from the halfway line for Burnley, down the right hand side for the substitute Son. Son's ball across the edge of the 6-yard box, cut out by Dunk, and then crashed upfield by Kadiolu for Brighton. Picked up again by Walker for Burnley, who are 2-0 down. Laurent's giving it back to him. Walker pushes it up towards the feet of Jadon Anthony. Anthony 5 yards outside the box. Dunk plunges at his feet. Anthony keeps the ball, gives it to Edwards. Back to Jadon Anthony again, the former Bournemouth winger on this right wing. Goes backwards 10 yards for Walker. Now Ekdal is introduced into the play. Anthony, but still Burnley keeping the ball, but all of this at the moment outside of Brighton's penalty area, as Anthony tries to lift it into a bit of space for Marcus Edwards. Edwards has wriggled his way through and then got a poke on the ball, and Ruter is there to clear for Brighton.
Yeah, better possession from Burnley. Substitutes making a little bit of a difference. Marcus Edwards already with a couple of decent touches. Someone on this right hand side looking to kind of get forward, had that half chance on the far post from a Marcus Edwards cross. Just no real end product in the end there after a nice period of possession from Burnley.
Well, Manta Broja's not going to get the chance to make it 2 away goals in 2 games. He is the latest Burnley change, so Broja off, Chowner on. That doesn't really leave Burnley with a natural number 9 now on the pitch. If you look at the players that are out there, remember there is no Zian Fleming today because of injury, but Chowner is very much a wide player rather than a centre forward, so it'll be interesting to see what they do here, Danny.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to play up front, but just looking at Broja's performance in that first half, and spent a lot of time out in wide areas as well. You know, you're thinking he's going to be maybe that focal point that Burnley will look to kind of play off, but spent a lot of time drifting into wide areas. Almost looks like at the moment it's almost a front two of Chowner, and Marcus Edwards has gone a little bit more central, but maybe that's just for this passage of play.
Here's Walker back in field for Laurent into the feet of Anthony, and back into his own half for Ekdal. Burnley are 2-0 down, and that means they've conceded at least twice in 8 of their now winless, as it appears to be, 11 Premier League games. 2 goals or more conceded in 8 of them, which is concerning.
Yeah, not good enough. Not good enough. You know, you're not going to stay in the Premier League with a defensive record like that. You know, puts that added pressure on the attack then as well. You know, not exactly scoring 3s and 4s the other end, so need to tighten up, that's for sure.
Veltman has been allowed to carry this a fair way down the right hand side for Brighton, and now the cross does come in, and the header away by Son to the edge of the penalty area. Gomez picks it up, he's forced to go backwards to Van Hecker, and out to the left hand side for Kadiolu. Here's Kostoulas, the Brighton number 19, one of those who certainly caught the eye in the Brighton team today. Their €35 million signing from Olympiacos. And the ball back on the halfway line with Dunk for Brighton, and now Brian Gruder, and with nothing on for Veltman, all the way back to goalkeeper Verbruggen. 2-0 Brighton leads. And this is 5 Live, Sports Extra, and on BBC Sounds, and we've played 20 minutes now of the second half as the long ball from Dunk is brought under control by Son, the Burnley substitute, and he's played a nice ball actually, beautifully weighted down the right hand side for Marcus Edwards, and Edwards sends it on for Chowner. Right side of Brighton's penalty area. Son now offering a bit of support. He's got forward, and his right footed cross headed away by Van Hecker, but headed behind by him, and it's a corner to Burnley.
Yeah, much better. Substitutes have made a bit of an impact, certainly in terms of Burnley in possession. 2 substitutes on this right hand side combining. Son, lovely ball into the channel for Marcus Edwards, and then Chethamder just making a little down run down the side of the 18-yard box. He gets fed in, gets set back, and then a decent delivery into the box, and they force the corner.
Pires is going to take with his left foot for Burnley, swirled up to the far post, half headed away, and then it comes back in. It's off the bar, and then it's over the top of the bar by a distance from Jadon Anthony. Kadiolu's the one who's taking all the praise, the Brighton defender, because he was the one who was on the line, who headed that onto his crossbar to stop it going
really
in.
well, yeah, because for Bruggen, it's poor goalkeeping. He's just moving towards that far post. He doesn't do enough with the punch. He just punches it into the path. I think it's Chowner, the substitute, and he heads it back towards goal. Kadiolu gets onto the line, and on the stretch he just heads it onto the crossbar and out.
It's an excellent combination, piece of defending, isn't it?
Really well. Yeah, spares the blushes of his goalkeeper there.
Well, that's another opportunity for Burnley. We talked about the one they had right at the end of the first half for Lucas Pires, which was saved from short range by Verbruggen with his legs, and another one there off the crossbar. So 2-0 still the scoreline in Brighton's favour here. And Scott Parker, I noted as that was happening, was leaping around in his technical area. He was willing that ball to go in, the Burnley coach, which feels like something he's been doing a lot in recent weeks.
Yeah, I'm sure they had one that came off the bar against Newcastle as well, didn't they? Been a little bit unlucky in that respect, but better from Burnley since the substitutes have come on. They've looked more played with a bit more confidence, a bit more belief in possession. Saying that, Florentino gives the ball away.
Brighton are going to make a couple of changes in a minute. Here is Kostulas, 15 yards outside Burnley's penalty area, onto that right hand side. I think De Kuyper's going to come on for Brighton, and so is Danny Welbeck, who's just taken his tracksuit top off, so he's revealed his bare chest. Danny Welbeck, he's 35 years old. Danny Welbeck, extraordinary shape,
like absolutely, a fine wine,
isn't he? He is. I mean, he's not an inch of fat on him, Danny Welbeck, all muscle, and he's got his jersey on now, and Brighton look like they are going to make 3 changes here, and one of them, along with De Kuyper and Welbeck, is going to be Pascal Gross for his second Brighton debut. So that is going to be met with great cheer, I think, from the Brighton supporters in just a moment, when they all realise who's coming on. Brighton have got the ball in their back line with Van Hecker as the game slows down to an almost pedestrian pace for a moment. Gross is getting some instructions from one of Fabian Herzler's backroom staff as Kadiolu is bumped into by Chowner on this near left-hand side. He's back on his feet, he's got the ball, he's got away from Son, and on he goes, and now he's got it to Kostulas, and then the referee blows his whistle, because the assistant referee has determined that actually the ball had gone out of play when Kadiolu looked like he kept it in.
Did it? We've got an excellent view here. I didn't think it went out. I thought he did ever so well to keep that in and spin away from Son there under pressure, and linesman's closer than we are, so give him the benefit of the doubt.
So here comes that treble Brighton change. Mitoma, legs being rested, I'm sure, having just returned from injury. He's the first to come off. Maxime De Kuyper is going to replace him. Jorginho Ruter, as pointed out by the PA, goal scorer Ruter, the second of those making way for Brighton's leading goal scorer in the Premier League this season, Danny Welbeck, with his 8 Premier League goals, the latest of which arrived against West Ham a few days ago. And listen to this, Pascal Gross back for Brighton and onto the pitch. Here we go.
By number 30, Pascal Gross.
adore him around here. And I'm sure that when he departed for Borussia Dortmund, they never expected that he'd be back here playing in a Brighton shirt again. This is his 262nd Brighton appearance, having rejoined in the last 48 hours from the club he left Brighton for, the German side Borussia Dortmund.
Biggest cheer of the afternoon.
Was. Fabian Herzler talking about not just the assets that he brings as a player, but also the leadership he's going to bring to this team as well. So he's on the pitch with the scoreline: Brighton 2, Burnley 0. And this is another of the substitutes. De Kuyper, there we go, first touch for Pascal Gross. Big cheer for him there as well. I think they're going to cheer every time he gets the ball. It's going to liven things up a bit. De Kuyper, Kadiolu, and then a tackle on him by Walker, a firm one to intercept the Brighton flow, and Van Hecke goes back to Verbruggen, who's just rolling the ball underneath his heel. 2-0 Brighton lead here. It's still, as last time I was made aware, Wolves 3, West Ham United 0. Earlier today in the Premier League, Aston Villa beat Nottingham Forest by 3-1. You can see all the goals tonight on Match of the Day, BBC One from 10:30. Alan Shearer and Jermaine Defoe, the studio frontline, alongside Mark Chapman. Bournemouth against Arsenal to come from 5:30 tonight, live on 5 Live and on BBC Sounds. Vicky Sparks and Rob Green will be at the Vitality Stadium for that one. This is De Kuyper for Brighton. 15 yards now, 10 yards perhaps outside Burnley's penalty area, going from the right and then coming back to the left to Kadiolu with the big fluffy hair, and then all the way back to Dunk, and Dunk to Van Hecke. 15 yards inside Burnley's half, to the right hand side for Veltman playing it infield for Gomez, and Gomez back to Van Hecke again. And this is a sustained spell, Danny Gabidon, of Brighton possession, with a scoreline that feels like a very cosy one right now.
Well, the scoreline allows them to do this now. They can control possession, they can choose when they want to attack, they can choose when they want to kind of lift the tempo, raise the tempo of their play. It's up to Burnley to step onto them and try and win the ball back. At the minute, Brighton in control possession, not really looking to go forward.
Here's Ayari, scored the second goal for Brighton right at the beginning of the second half. Barely 60 seconds of that second half had elapsed when he struck that low shot into Dubravka's corner. I just felt like Burnley were caught cold by that, but Jayden Anthony is hot in on the pass out there from Verbruggen, which wasn't quite right for Diego Gomez. So Anthony getting the ball back for Burnley and playing it across the pitch for Walker. 15 yards inside Brighton's half. 2-0 the scoreline to Brighton, but then Walker gives the ball away, and there's a few cheers from the Brighton fans as he does so, and Gruder carries it down the right hand side for Brighton. 3 up with him, Welbeck, De Kuyper and Gross are in there, and the cross is headed away by Ekdal, picked up again by Diego Gomez, and then brought down in midfield by Yassin Ayari for Brighton. Here's Lewis Dunk for Kadiolu out to the left hand side for Gross. They are enjoying seeing him back here, aren't they, Danny? And there's Danny Welbeck away from Kyle Walker into the penalty area, pass on to the byline, still going, bundling his way through and running it out of play. Goal kick the decision.
Yeah, I think he's going to get cheered every time he touches the ball. Pascal Gross. Lovely little turn from Welbeck, just feeds the ball into Welbeck. He looks like he's going to turn and come back out, and he kind of twists and goes the other way towards that byline and then into the 18-yard box, and he just kind of runs out of room in the end, runs into bodies.
Just seen a replay on our screen, by the way, of that earlier Chowner header that Kadiolu, the Brighton defender, headed up and onto his crossbar, and they were just showing us the goal line technology, and half of the ball was over the line, so that's how close Burnley were to working their way back into the game, as Jayden Anthony wins a free kick on the halfway line for Burnley.
Yeah, and if that goes in, it does change the momentum of the game slightly. Burnley getting back into it 2-1, suddenly the Amex becomes a little bit more nervy.
And they come again, Burnley, with Marcus Edwards getting it off Lucas Pires, trying to tiptoe his way past the Brighton defence, taken off him, and then Veltman clatters his clearance into Jayden Anthony, and out for a Brighton throw. Brighton 2, Burnley 0 is the scoreline at the Amex Stadium, with the floodlights piercing down onto the pitch at the end of what has been a really busy Premier League period for these two teams and the 18 others in the league.
Yeah, I gotta say, I don't miss it, Chris.
I did ask you earlier what you've been doing over the Christmas period, and eating and sleeping was at the top of the list, which I imagine probably wasn't the case back in the day.
Yeah, no, certainly wasn't. I think the players enjoy it though. You ask any player and they much more enjoy playing than actually, training. There's a lot of training that kind of goes on this time of year because the games come thick and fast. So, but it can be difficult on the legs as well.
And Burnley will certainly be feeling the pinch, I imagine, because they are heading towards an 11th game without a Premier League win, and Brighton are going to, it appears at least, end their own winless sequence, which stood at 6 games coming into this one.
And it doesn't help this kind of period where there are a lot of games when you have a lot of injuries as well. As a manager, it's difficult to really change too much, I suppose. You kind of go with kind of what you've got. So from Burnley point of view, you need to get some of those players back. Brighton a little bit as well, not so many injuries, but they've got key players out still as well.
They're not just going to cheer the Brighton fans when Gross gets the ball, they're going to boo when a decision goes against him as well. That's because Gross had found himself in an offside position there. So Burnley have a free kick, though where Kyle Walker wants to take it isn't where Tim Robinson, the referee, wants him to take it. He's been ordered to take it back several yards. And Walker, rather than going forward, goes backwards to Ekdal for Burnley to try and build, and then Laurent goes all the way back to goalkeeper Dubravka. Brighton 2, Burnley 0 the scoreline. Wolves are 3-0 up still against West Ham United over on 5 Live, and on BBC Sounds this afternoon, Bournemouth against Arsenal from 5:30. 6:06 tonight as well, if you want to get your calls in, if you're a Brighton fan, you want to discuss about the direction of the team, whether there is still hope that this Brighton team might be able to get themselves back into Europe this season. And if you're a Burnley fan, how does Scott Parker spin this situation around? Ekdal winning it back off Gomez, who then in turn takes it back off him and gives it to Welbeck, and Welbeck pushes the ball to the right hand side for Gruder, right wing, laid off for Pascal Gross with the shot, blocked. Gross wins the header of the seconds, and away it goes from Oliver Son for Burnley.
If that went in, I think the Amex would have erupted. But again, Burnley poor in possession, turning the ball over. Brighton breaking quickly. Just thought Gruder cutting in off that right hand side might have taken the shot on himself, looked for that far corner, but just plays it square to the edge of the box for Gross, and attempted shot gets blocked.
James Milner's coming on shortly for Brighton. He's stripped and ready to go, and Brighton keeping the ball and very much keeping Burnley at bay, who, bar those couple of opportunities, have felt rather toothless this afternoon. And he's not the only player that's coming on. We're going to see Jadon Banel as well for his Premier League debut for Burnley, the young Dutch winger. Don't know too much about him. £1 million signing from Ajax last February, but the first opportunity forthcoming in the Premier League for him today is Kadiolu for Brighton. Welbeck, edge of the penalty area, tried to be turned back in his direction by Pascal Gross, who's certainly given Brighton a lift in terms of the intensity since he's come on. And then the flick from Welbeck doesn't find a teammate, and then the foul by Gross on Jadon Anthony. Free kick to Burnley, and now we're going to see the changes from both. So Brighton will go first. Off comes Diego Gomez, and on comes James Milner, who Danny Gabardon will turn 40 years old tomorrow. How is he still playing at this level at 40?
I have no answer to your question. Unbelievable, really. Just a model professional. You can only play at that age if you're doing the right things. He's that kind of person, James Milner. You look at the clubs that he's played for, the amount of appearances, and maybe gets injured a little bit more now, but generally never did. And Unbelievable, really. What a career he's had.
And is only now 5 appearances away from breaking Gareth Barry's all-time Premier League appearance record.
He's not hanging the boots up until he gets that, is he? I think that's why he's still going.
One would assume that is going to be coming his way in the next few weeks, barring obviously any injuries.
Fabian Hürzeler knows as well. I'm sure he's been in his ear all season long. Just get me those 6 appearances I need.
Tony Gabardon is with us here on 5 Live Sports Extra. And Brighton are leading Burnley by 2-0, and we're inside the final 10 minutes now. And this is Lewis Dunk on the left-hand side, De Kuyper, and then Son with a drag on Pascal Gross, who goes to ground, quickly jumps to his feet. That is the one thing that I love personally, Danny, about watching Pascal Gross. He's not the quickest player, but he uses his body so beautifully.
Yeah, intelligent, quick in the mind, intelligent player. Kind of plays 1-2 steps ahead. Really kind of shrewd signing, getting him back. We speak about the experience of obviously Milner and Welbeck, really important, in a kind of a youngish group as well that Brighton have, but to add extra experience with Gross, someone who knows the club really well, knows how the team kind of wants to play, all of those things. Really clever signing.
De Kuyper moving up towards the edge of Burnley's penalty area. His attempted pass was deflected and it took the ball into the path of Walker, but Burnley have lost that. And then De Kuyper with a spin, luring Laurent in, who is on a yellow card. And that wasn't too far away from being a bookable offence from Josh Laurent, and the Amex know it. It's not going to be a yellow, or a second yellow, but it is a free kick.
I think it's a foul, nothing more than that. Dangles that leg in, very quick to kind of go down. De Kuyper as well, to buy the foul. But Burnley, they just kind of, it's happened to quite a lot the last kind of 5 minutes. Brighton have done a good job of when they turn the ball over, really pressing quickly to win the ball back, and Burnley have tried to play out, and that first pass just can't find its man, and Brighton are able to kind of get the ball back immediately.
Brighton have got 3 players over this free kick, none of them are Pascal Gross, and the Brighton fans are chanting, "We want Gross, we want Gross."
Oh, he's hitting this. He's definitely hitting this. He's not even there, is he?
No, he's not. That was the point I was making. I know he is. I know, and I think that's the emphasis of the Brighton chant as well.
Yeah, we got Welbeck, I think De Kuyper's over it, and Milner's just standing there as well.
So which of this trio is it going to be? The Burnley wall is really long. I mean, it's consisting of more than half the team, that Burnley wall.
Yeah.
There's how many in it? 6?
Yeah, 6.
6 in the Burnley wall. Dunk and Van Hecker have attached themselves to the end of it, to the left-hand side. It's 7 yards outside Burnley's penalty area. We've still got those 3 Brighton players over it, Welbeck, Milner, De Kuyper, all of whom are now taking purposeful strides backwards to keep Dubravka guessing. 2-0 Brighton leads, but they've got a free kick here, which De Kuyper takes. Oh, he's hit the bar right on the angle from Maxime De Kuyper. Dubravka moved, shuffled his feet, but was very much beaten, the Burnley goalkeeper, by that from Maxime De Kuyper.
No, you could have had 10 players in the wall. I don't think any of them would have done anything about that. Excellent free kick from De Kuyper. It's almost the wrong side, really, for a left footer.
Maybe that's what deceived Dubravka.
Yeah, gets it up and over the wall. So unlucky. It's just trying to curl its way back in towards the goal. Just comes back off the outside of the post. Fantastic technique.
Just a couple of inches away, Maxime De Kuyper, from his first home goal here at the Amex Stadium for Brighton. He's got 2 Premier League goals, but both of them have come away at Chelsea and that win at Nottingham Forest. And Brighton's lead is still 2-0.
Yeah, I'm not sure Pascal Gross has been back in the club long enough to get himself on free kicks, and he might not after that effort from De Kuyper.
Leaps for it, Pascal Gross on the halfway line, but the ball is over his head and sent forward by Walker down the right hand side for Marcus Edwards. The ball looked like it hit his hand, it did, and the referee just waiting for the signal from the assistant referee, the vicious wave of the flag. So free kick to Brighton.
Just looking at that free kick again, and actually whips it around the wall. So I'm not sure if Dubravka's got that wall, that 6-man wall set up correctly, but he whips it around the wall. It's curling back, and so unlucky because Dubravka's, he's rooted really, doesn't even dive, comes back off the outside of the post.
with Fabian Hürzeler's team in command, he feels that the opportunity to rest legs where he can is essential, because Tom Watson's going to come on shortly. Tom Watson, who you may well be aware of, or certainly would have been aware of him from the playoff final onwards, because he was the player that scored the winning goal in the playoff final for Sunderland back in May, but that move to Brighton was already lined up. So he's going to come on here for his 5th Premier League appearance, and Brian Kruder is the one who's going to depart for him.
Yeah, it must have been a strange feeling for the lad, kind of scoring a goal in the playoff final, getting Sunderland promoted, and then coming to Brighton. But you look at the amount of players that Sunderland have brought in this season, and you wondered whether he might have got as many opportunities as he needed. So coming to Brighton, as we know, as we've already spoken about, a place where young players are given a chance to develop and are given minutes, you'll be hoping that this turns out to be the right move for him.
Still only 19 as well, Tom Watson is. Jayden Bernal, the Premier League debutant for Burnley, wins a throw on the left-hand side, 2/3 of the way up inside Brighton's half. But Burnley are trailing by 2-0. Try and shift my effects mic slightly away from the two gentlemen right in front of me here, Danny Gabardon, who are having a very deep conversation, and I think for their benefit they probably don't want the world to hear it. So. 2-0 then to Brighton, but Burnley trying to offer a late threat. Lucas Pires with the cross from the left-hand side, which nearly came towards Bernal. Van Hecke wins the ball as it loops up into the air with his head. The Dutch defender for Brighton back on that left-hand side again for Burnley with Chauner. Now Florentino just turning one way and then the other to try and open up a bit of space. Albion is the chant from the home supporters. In comes the cross, and Van Hecke, who alongside Dunk, Danny Gabardon, feel like they've had a relatively routine afternoon and now evening for Brighton here. Just hold that thought for a moment. Here's Chauner again for Burnley on the left. Laurent 5 yards outside Brighton's penalty area. Burnley are going to be staying in 19th in the Premier League table. Wolves are going to make up a little bit of ground on them behind them, but West Ham aren't ahead of them with that scoreline of Wolves 3, West Ham 0 still at Molineux. And the clearance is a short one. Florentino's got it. The pull back, Van Hecke, it nearly spins into the net, and then Verbruggen jumps across his goal to claim it. That was a bit messy from Brighton.
Yeah, right smile from Scott Parker there. Just about get away with that, Brighton. I think it's Ayari possibly on the ball in his own 18-yard box there, trying to do too much, gives the ball away, gets robbed of it. Good pressing from Florentino, gets to the byline, cuts it back. Van Hecke's in the right place at the right time, and he almost plays it off his own teammate there, looking to clear it. And Ayari gets lucky there because he just drops into the hands of Verbruggen.
I mean, it could have
easily gone in.
I mean, it could have been a calamitous own goal.
He's only 3 or 4 yards out. Gets really lucky there.
Yeah, Van Hecke just sort of clobbers it at the shoulder of Yassin Ayari, who clearly could do nothing about it. But Verbruggen prevented the goal, and Brighton have the potential of a clean sheet still as a possibility here. He's only got one in his last 6 games, but Verbruggen has had Brighton in the Premier League. Is Dubravka, the Burnley goalkeeper, playing the short ball out to the left-hand side of his penalty area, and we've got 30 seconds, I make it, of normal time to play plus stoppage time. And as the camera pans in again on Scott Parker, I'm wondering whether we're going to get that sort of similar message that we've heard from him about his team having fight but not getting the fine margins. Here is Gross for Brighton, Pascal Gross. As Burnley take it away from him and they take it upfield on this right-hand side for Oliver Son. That has been a message that's been sort of pushed quite a lot by Scott Parker, hasn't it? The fact that his team is showing an awful lot of spirit, but maybe the subtle differences haven't gone his team's way.
Yeah, I think when it's not going your way, you know, the luck kind of goes that way there, where you've seen one come back off the crossbar, doesn't go in, half the ball's over the line, and another opportunity just there where that could have easily been an own goal. Not really going their way at the minute, Burnley, and they need to find a way of winning games or getting points at least, even if it's a draw here and there.
Chauner's cross into the Brighton penalty area. There's quite a few Burnley supporters and indeed Burnley players who were questioning whether the ball had hit a hand inside the Brighton penalty area there, so I'm sure that VAR will be having a look at that, and indeed the complaints are going on from Ekdal amongst others as Burnley still have possession. Chauner's trip, free kick to Burnley, just right of centre, 15 yards or so outside Brighton's box, and we're going to get another look at this. Danny, does that hit the hand? I don't know if it does.
No, I don't think so. That ball's headed out. Yeah, I think that comes off the chest there of James Milner.
He doesn't seem too concerned, does he, Milner? And I think, judging by the body language of the referee and those out on the pitch, this has been cleared already, so it is going to only be the Burnley free kick, which Tim Robinson, the referee, is now marking out the 10 yards in which the Brighton wall, if indeed they choose to make one, is going to have to stand here. And it's about 12 yards outside the Brighton box. Chauner is the only one over it. Loon Chauner, the French under-21 international. We're in 5 minutes of added on time. Chauner with his left foot low for Bruggen, down to his left-hand side. Straightforward save.
And he's a long way out there. Going to take something special from Chauner. Hits the target, but not a clean enough strike to trouble the goalkeeper there. Probably summed up their afternoon a little bit there. Burnley had that probably 5-minute spell when the substitutes came on, where they looked a little bit more threatening, and Brighton just did a really good job of kind of taking the sting out of the game by controlling possession and just not allowing Burnley to kind of get up the field really.
Kyle Walker gets a yellow card for a rough challenge on Cadiolo, who was still sat down on the touchline just in front of us over towards our right hand side. A shake of the head from Kyle Walker about that decision. He felt like he got a bit of the ball.
Looks fine to me. Looks like a really good tackle. Strong tackle, wins the ball. Cadiolo goes down, but don't really see a lot of contact there. All the contact's on the ball for me.
Well, we'll do a bit more of a deep dive on Burnley after the game, but this certainly has a very despondent feel about it as the full-time whistle blows, and Brighton's winless run is over after 6 games without a victory. Fabian Hürzeler's side back on track, and as their winless run ends, they in due course extend the extensive one of Burnley's, which now stands at 11 matches without 3 points for Scott Parker's side. 2 goals in either half, the first from Jorginho Ruter and one right at the start of the second for Yassin Ayari for Brighton. And it felt, Danny Gabidon, for a long time like this was a match that was in Brighton's grasp throughout.
Yeah, comfortable win in the end. You know, Fabian Hürzeler will be absolutely delighted, as you mentioned there, Chris. 6 games without a win coming into this one, but still in a decent position in the league, although it looks like their league position didn't suggest that. But it's so congested, the Premier League, that with a couple of wins now they can kind of move up and get into those European positions very quickly. So it was a really important game for both teams today to try and kind of generate some momentum, and you'd have to say a comfortable one for Brighton. Once they got that first goal, never really saw Burnley showing enough quality to kind of get back into the game. And then you look at the start of the second half of Burnley, kind of conceding that second goal so early was always going to make it very difficult. Scott Parker, emptying the bench, trying to make something happen. Substitutes kind of came on, and yes, for maybe a 5-minute spell they looked a little bit better, had a couple of half chances, a little bit unlucky maybe not to get a goal, but just didn't show enough quality going forward. And those kind of defensive vulnerabilities are still there. They're too easy to kind of play against, too easy to score goals against, and that really is a recipe for disaster in the Premier League. You have to be good in both boxes, and at the minute Burnley they're not. So things going to have to improve, and improve quickly. But I don't really see any light at the tunnel at the minute for Burnley. It's a difficult one for Scott Parker right now.
Yeah, the Brighton players are making their way around the pitch to give thanks to their supporters. There's a wave from Pascal Gross, so pleased the Brighton fans to see him back in a Seagull shirt again today for his second debut. They're off to Manchester City on Wednesday night, Brighton, so that is without doubt one of their most difficult games of the season. But with the winless run now over, they're up to 8th in the Premier League table. We know how squeezed it is in that central portion of England's top flight, but do you see Brighton being a team that could, Danny, potentially force their way into European contention this season, or are they not quite the team they were perhaps a couple of seasons ago?
I'm not sure they're the team they were a couple of seasons ago, and maybe you can understand why in terms of the quality that have left the club. And they have this kind of policy of having fantastic recruitment and letting players go, and then they've got the next one that comes in, and I think that's a very difficult model to sustain though. And I think you're looking at the recruitment that's been made this summer, the likes of the Kuiper, Ayari. I still think there's players, Gomez, who are still finding their feet in the Premier League and are developing and are getting better game on game, but probably not quite the team they were a couple of seasons ago. Probably don't quite play the type of football under the new manager as opposed to the previous managers like Roberto De Zerbi. I don't think they were as frightening to play against as they were a couple of seasons ago. But look, still a very good team, and it's a very unpredictable Premier League. There's probably only 3 teams in the league showing consistency right now: Arsenal, Villa, and now Man City. So every other team in the league, I think, there's an unpredictability factor about them, and you're capable of kind of losing games. So look, Brighton on their day, and if they can get kind of players back fit.